Make sure everybody's in here. See what we got here. All right, welcome back, fellas. Welcome back. Listen, welcome back to journeyballaholic. Let's go ahead and turn this on. I think I got a little. All right, welcome back to journeyballaholic, man. This is the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General HannibalYamro. Now, on this channel, we're going to be discussing the Nets versus the Lakers. Listen, the game we just saw the other night, was that the 2021 NBA Finals preview? Well, we're going to have to make sure we stick around to the end of this because if you're new to the channel and this is your first time, listen, I'm a ballaholic. I'm absolutely addicted to basketball. Now, just like everybody, I do have my own opinions. But if you like opinions that are about my facts, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And also, be sure to hit that bell notification and turn it on to all notifications. That way you'll be updated whenever YouTube lets you know about a new video. Now listen, if you are new to this stream, new to this channel, new to the Ballaholic Nation, I want to welcome you. We got to dive into this. For those who already been here, welcome back, welcome back. Let's see who we got live in the chat, man. Let's see. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I see you got Jason in the chat. We got Lakers for Life in the chat. Caden, what's going on, man? Listen, Caden, me and you, we got to talk, man. We got to talk because your Nets, you picked the Nets in 6. And I like that pick when you made it. But we're going to have to talk about that because the Lakers, man, they steamrolled the Nets the other day. They absolutely steamrolled the Nets. But can we really take that that game and make it bigger than what it was? And I don't think we can. Because number one, you had no James Harden. You had Kevin Durant on a minutes restriction. You had no LeBron James, no Anthony Davis. So we cannot allow ourselves to get too far ahead of ourselves because that right there was not indicative of what we're going to see if we see a 2021 NBA Finals between the Lakers and the Nets. Now, let's start off with what we did see, okay? Because the 126 to 101 win by the Lakers, it was impressive, man. I mean, there's really no other way that you can put that out there other than the fact that it was impressive. Remember, no LeBron James, no Anthony Davis, no Kyle Kuzma, no Wesley Matthews, no Marc Gasol. That's 5 of their rotational players. And though James Harden didn't play, that's a big piece missing for the Lakers. A lot of offensive firepower. But one of the things that you saw from the beginning of the game was the pressure that the Lakers were putting on the Nets full court, led by Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder had an amazing first half. Him and Kyrie Irving went back-to-back, head-to-head, basket for basket. But one of the things that we saw in there is one of the issues that I think the Nets may have. And this is some of the things that we got to address, man. What's going on with Kyrie Irving? Because that was his first career ejection. And to me, it was kind of a microcosm of Kyrie Irving's career, where he's kind of in and out, not just health-wise, not just availability-wise, but mentally. Sometimes he just kind of checks out. And that was a game where Dennis Schroeder, listen, in the heated competition, you never know what's really being said. But from what we're hearing, there wasn't anything too ludicrous that was said to cause Kyrie Irving to just flip his top. But that's Kyrie Irving. You don't really know what you're going to get from him. In the game that was supposed to happen tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Kyrie Irving was going to be sitting out for personal reasons. Listen, whatever's going on, hopefully he'll address that situation. But on the court, that's where Kyrie Irving and this Dennis Schroeder, this matchup here is going to be really interesting. If you get an NBA Finals matchup, Kyrie Irving is the better talent. There's no question about that. Hands down, he's a better player than Dennis Schroeder. So he's going to win that matchup. Even though in this game against the Lakers, Schroeder was going basket for basket, that's not something you're going to see in an NBA Finals showdown between the Lakers and the Nets. Kyrie Irving's going to bust his head. He's averaging like 27 points per game. He's shooting almost 50, 40, 90. I think he's at like 39% from the three. So he's on an elite level scorer. He's the best ball handler the NBA has ever seen. And he's got, some of the most craftiest moves around the basket. Listen, I tip my hat to Kyrie. He's amazing. But how does the dynamic of what Kyrie Irving brings to the table, when you fit that on the court with James Harden, on the court with Kevin Durant, How does that work together? Well, we've only seen it for 7 games. So this is one of the issues, or one of the questions that we still have, is how does the chemistry of this team fit together, because we just haven't seen it. But I think these guys are just too good offensively to not make it work. Arguably, this is probably one of the greatest offensive firepower that we've ever seen in NBA history. So I'm not worried about the Brooklyn Nets offensively. Right now, they're #1 rated in offense. That's probably going to hold the rest of the season, despite them having guys in and out of the lineup. They added LaMarcus Aldridge, added Blake Griffin. I like what I see from the Brooklyn Nets. Here's the issue. You saw a small sample size of this in the game just the other night. The offense is not the issue for the Brooklyn Nets. It's the defense. It's the rebounding. When you got LaMarcus Aldridge playing the 5 spot, whether it's a Jeff Green, whether it's a Blake Griffin, whether it's a DeAndre Jordan, who's going to hold down that 5 spot against Andre Drummond? Andre Drummond, ladies and gentlemen, that's a grown man. Like, that's a man amongst boys, and he's playing against men. It's a reason why 4 of the last 5 years, Andre Drummond's led the NBA in rebounding. Listen, at the end of the day, Andre Drummond showed the Brooklyn Nets why they need something bigger, something better, something stronger down low than what LaMarcus Aldridge brings. And when the Aldridge signing happened, if you remember, go back and look at that tape that I did. I said that I thought it was a good move because they kept him away from the Miami Heat, but I didn't necessarily like the fit with the Brooklyn Nets because he didn't really bring what they needed, which was rebounding and defense. Andre Drummond bully balled LaMarcus Aldridge. Absolutely, 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 20 points and 11 rebounds. He did it in 22 minutes. 22 minutes of action, he put up 20 and 11. That's an issue. And remember this, there were multiple times when you saw Andre Drummond getting double teamed. There was a time I saw a triple team on Andre Drummond. There's one moment that I can remember where there was literally 5 Brooklyn Nets surrounding Andre Drummond who had the ball. They literally collapsed on him. It's fine to do that in a game where you don't have a LeBron James, where you don't have the Anthony Davis. But how do you stop Andre Drummond when you have LeBron and Anthony Davis on the court? You can't. You're not going to be able to send a triple team or 4 guys at Andre Drummond. So who's going to be able to match up down low? Some people say DeAndre Jordan. Here's the issue. The Brooklyn Nets have not been able to guard Andre Drummond all season. That was whether they had DeAndre Jordan there, whether they have LaMarcus Aldridge there. It has not mattered thus far. It really hasn't. Andre Drummond is 3-0 against the Brooklyn Nets. He's averaging 17 points and 11 rebounds, shooting efficiently from the field. He's been just bullying these guys, and they have no answer. So is that something you can see consistently going on? Unless they pick up somebody, which as of this time, the buyout market's over, so you are who you are. I mean, they could pick up, I think, I can't remember how you pronounce his first name, Elias Johnson, or Elise Johnson, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but they just signed somebody to another 10-day contract. They're struggling. They're trying to figure out who's going to come in here as a big man to help out the Claxton off the bench. I like him. He's just a little too light in the pants to deal with Andre Drummond. The size, man, for the Lakers is going to be an issue. The advantage that the Brooklyn Nets have over the Lakers is on the perimeter. Listen, the Lakers are not going to be able to stop Kevin Durant. When you put Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving on that perimeter, the Lakers have no answers to stop that firepower. Here's the thing, though. When you are a jump shooting team, which is what the Brooklyn Nets are, you're going to take a lot of jumpers, and you're going to hit a lot of jumpers. But what happens on those nights when you have an off night? What happens on those opportunities when you're shooting and you miss the shots? I mean, Kevin Durant, as great as he is, he's not hitting 100% of the shots. He's going to miss. So that means that the other team is rebounding the ball unless you have big-time rebounders down low, which the Brooklyn Nets do not have. So when you've got Andre Drummond, who's the best rebounder in the game, you put him beside Anthony Davis. When the Brooklyn Nets are missing shots, don't you expect the Lakers to grab those rebounds and get out and running? And then you're getting the ball to a Dennis Schroeder, who's like a speed racer. You're getting the ball to LeBron James, who's one of the best players in transition. Listen, man, let's go to the chat real quick, because I want to see... Cade says Kareem Abdul-Drummond. Listen, Cade, we're not going to go that far, Cade. We're not going to say Kareem Abdul-Drummond, but, I mean, listen, let's call it what it is, man. The Nets have no answer for that. Let's go back for a second. I want to make sure I got everybody. Josh Pitcher says Caruso, Lakers Defensive Player of the Year. Listen, man, Josh, Caruso is a hound on defense. Him and Dennis Schroeder. When you've got a guy who can start and then a bench man who can come in and they put so much pressure on the ball, man, it's tough on ball handlers. It's tough because you never get an opportunity to really breathe. And then the Lakers do a great job of switching, helping the helper, rotating. Like, it's just constant pressure. There was a shot that I saw Kyrie Irving hit where he puts, the moves. He was guarded by Taylor Horton Tucker. He put the moves on him. And, the handle was just insane. But Taylor Horton Tucker did probably the best defensive job I've ever seen on Kyrie and was with him step for step. Even got a hand up, almost blocked the shot, and there was nothing but net from Kyrie. Sometimes better offense is just going to beat better defense. Not all the time, but a lot of times, you just got to tip your hat and go down to the other court. But the Lakers have so many guys that they're going to be able to throw. The Wes Matthews, the Taylor Horton Tuckers, the Alex Carusos, the Dennis Schroeders. So many guys they're going to throw at Kyrie Irving and James Harden. Eventually, that takes your toll. We've seen James Harden get frustrated with going against this Lakers defense. He had to get up out of Houston after his last game against in Houston was against the Lakers. And after that loss, he said, "I'm done. Get me out of here. We can't beat these boys." He went to Brooklyn, and now he's getting his butt kicked. Well, he wasn't there last night, but his team's getting his butt kicked against the Lakers. Listen, man, let's go back to the comment section. We got Jason saying, if you really think about it, it's like some Lakers bench versus all the Nets bench and some KD. Jason says, if you really think about it, it's like the Lakers, some Lakers bench versus all of the Nets bench and some KD and Kyrie. Okay, I don't necessarily understand that, but okay. Skylar says Kyrie would have played 30-plus minutes if he didn't get ejected, but that's on him. Agreed. Skylar, that's a good point. That's a very good point because Kyrie was cooking. Like I say, as great as the Lakers defense is, once again, you're not going to stop the best offensive players in the game. Let's be very clear about that. You're not going to stop them. All you want to do is make them work. Because if you're talking about a final series, this is a 7-game series. That wears down on you as you go on to game 4, game 5, game 6, potentially game 7. That wears down on you. And you become less efficient as this game and the series goes on. So I think that's a good point that Kyrie would have kept playing. He probably would have kept dropping buckets. But in that game, there was only 3 guys for the Brooklyn Nets who scored double figures. Only 3. That was Durant, that was Irving, and LaMarcus Aldridge. They're 3 star caliber players. None of the role players scored. Why? Because the Lakers defense is so good, only the best scorers out there are able to get buckets on them. But look at the Lakers scoring options. They had 8 guys. The Lakers had 8 guys who scored in double figures. Remind you, their 2 best players, LeBron and AD, didn't play. Kyle Kuzma was one of their top 5 scorers. He didn't play. Weston Matthews didn't play. And they still had 8 guys scoring in double figures. The Lakers are the deepest team in the NBA. Listen, this isn't biased, ladies and gentlemen. This is look at the proof here. When you got guys like Markieff Morris coming off the bench, who can give you double digits on any game. You got Taylor Horton Tucker, who steps into the starting lineup and gives you a double-double, 14 and 11. You got Caruso, who can give you 10. They just signed Ben McLemore, and McLemore went insane from the 3. He's a sniper. He's last 2 seasons, 40% from 3. He hits 5 threes. Like, the depth of this Lakers team is crazy, and then you add, with all due respect, neither team is making the finals. Wow. Verona, let me know in the comment section. Who do you have making the finals if you don't have the Lakers and you don't have the Brooklyn Nets? I would love to hear who you've got in the finals. Let's see. Rona says Lakers are favorites in the West, but other teams are surging. The Lakers won't have an easy time at all. Y'all fanboys act like it's as good as done. Well, let me respond to that. Rona, first of all, I want to see. Let me know in the comment section who you're picking. Then I'll be able to respond to your comment. But I want to know who you're picking. Lakers for Life says, I'm not saying the Lakers or the Nets are locked for the playoffs. It's a good chance a major upset is coming out of major playoffs. It's a good chance a major upset is coming out of major, but majority chance, right? There is a chance. There's a chance on any given Sunday, as the football movie was. It's a chance, right? But we got to talk about possibilities versus probabilities. Is it possible that somebody can knock the Lakers off? Yes. And if they're not healthy, the probability of that goes up drastically. But if the Lakers are healthy, I don't see any team in the West knocking them off. And the Clippers, to me, I love the addition of DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo and Serge Ibaka. Listen, I like this Clippers team, but they're not good enough or deep enough to beat this Lakers team if the Lakers are healthy. So we got to see. Let's see. Odell says, fully healthy, what's the Lakers' closing lineup, dog? Well, Odell, I think it's going to depend on the matchup. But remember, AD a lot of times closes at the 5, right? We saw a lot of times last year where JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard weren't necessarily in the game because AD brings such a dynamic dimension being able to play that 5 spot. But things are a little different when you got Andre Drummond. Things can be a little bit different when you got an all-star caliber big man like that. So I think it's going to depend on the team. For instance, if you're playing the Denver Nuggets or the Philadelphia 76ers, that means you're going to have Jokic or Embiid in at the end of games. You're going to want a big man in there, right? So that's where I can see Drummond still playing the 5 spot against those teams. But if you're going against a smaller team, depending on what that lineup may be, maybe it's Montrezl Harrell who's playing in there at that spot. Or you could just go with Anthony Davis at the 5. So the guys we know, Davis is going to be in there. LeBron James, Schroeder, those 3 are almost locks to be in there at the end of the game. Then those last 2 positions, you're probably going to want to have a shooter out there. So that whether that's a KCP, whether that's a Wesley Matthews, a Ben McLemore, you're going to want a shooter out there to play that wing spot. And then you're going to decide whether you're going to go with the Davis at the 4 or the 5, and then that kind of opens up the options whether it's Trez, Drummond, or even a Markieff Morris or Kyle Kuzma. So I can't really give you a set answer. I know that's not really what you're looking for, but I think it's going to depend on the matchup. If you're talking about going up against the Nets, I could see them going small sometimes, putting Anthony Davis at the 5. Maybe if, let's say Kuzma's hot. Let's say Kuzma's been hot because, he goes through stretches where he's very inconsistent. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. So if it's a game where he's hot, I can see Kuzma playing that 4 spot, right? And with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, a Schroeder, and then a shooter like maybe a KCP. I can see that as a lineup. If Drummond's just been absolutely dominating them, I can see him in there. But because he's a lot better at the free throw line, sometimes you don't want to have him in the game at the end if they're going to go with the hacker Drummond. So you might have to take him out, even though he hit a couple of them the other day. Let's see. Okay, so Yassine says your boys from Paris is here, bro. Keep pushing. I appreciate the support, Yassine, from all the way from Paris. That's what's up, man. Definitely appreciate that international love, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so this is my thing, and help me. Like I said, if I'm missing something, let me know. For those who are supporters of the Brooklyn Nets, and if you think that the Brooklyn Nets are the better team, if they match up with the Lakers, right? Because right now we're not going to talk about the other options because I'll get to some of my other predictions in a bit. But if the Lakers and the Nets match up in the finals, how do you see the... Sorry about that, man. Sorry about that. I got to figure this whole camera situation out. Seems like we're coming a little fuzzy there. It's not the best connection. Let's see what we got. Let me get a 1 in the chat if you can hear me and see me. Put a 1 in if you can hear me and see me clearly. Want to make sure we're good. JSD says 1. Okay, so we're good. Jason 1. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to this. So listen, I would love to know, for those, I don't know where we got cut off at, but for Katie, let me know. I know you're a Nets supporter. From what you saw, from what you know about basketball, how do you see the Nets stacking up with the Lakers? Like, I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are, because I'm going to be honest with you. Why you thinking about that? I don't know if the Nets are going to make the finals. I know that may be crazy to say, and I know this is a finals preview, potentially. I don't know if the Nets are going to make the finals because how do the Nets guard Joel Embiid in Philly? If they can't guard Andre Drummond, and as you said, made him look like Kareem Abdul-Drummond, how do they guard Joel Embiid? Now, the Sixers are the second best defensive team in the NBA. So they're elite as well, and they got size to be able to defend different things, and I know their offense can't keep up with Brooklyn, but how do the Nets, do they make the finals? Like, let me know in the comments. Scholar says, I don't see him beating the 76ers. I agree with you, Scholar. Like, I'm having a hard time seeing how they're going to stop the Philadelphia 76ers, who are elite defensively and have matchup issues offensively. I mean, let me know. Dr. Philly Willis says, good offense comes and goes. Good defense is more consistent from team to team. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Let me know, Kane. Let me know what you think. Odell says, Nets have 3 problems. Size, chemistry, and the defense is shocking. Well said. Absolutely well said. Their size, on the perimeter, James Harden and Kevin Durant give you good size. But I think you're referring to the bulk of the girth down low. And when DeAndre Jordan's not in the game, they do have a size issue. I agree with that, because just to be honest with you, He's a power forward trying to play center, and he's not a rim protector. He's not like Draymond Green. He's not a good defender. So they got struggles there. I agree with you. Caden says Nets versus the 76ers, Nets in 6. We're going to see. I'm going to hold you to that. We're going to see. Skylar says, when you think about the Nuggets, if the Lakers face the Nuggets, listen, that's going to be a tough matchup, Skylar. That's a very good question. The Denver Nuggets do present a lot of challenges to the Lakers, right? Adding Aaron Gordon and his athleticism, that's going to make it tougher, I'll say tougher, on Anthony Davis, because he's got to be able to keep up and move all around with that speed. And Aaron Gordon, he's not as long as Davis, not as tall, but he moves around. He's extremely athletic, so he's going to make Anthony Davis work. Jokic is going to be a handful for Andre Drummond. Jokic would win that matchup, right? Not too many guys are going to just win that matchup head-to-head like that, but Jokic would win that matchup against Drummond. The issue, Jamal Murray, first of all, let's be very clear. Jamal Murray, the Lakers have no answer for Jamal Murray, right? They have no answer for Murray. But what we saw last year is that corralling team defense, that switching. And if the Nuggets have to guard the Lakers, if the Lakers have to guard the Nuggets, it's going to be a struggle, but I think they can get it done. How do the Nuggets guard the Lakers? See, a lot of times we look at the Lakers, we see them being the best defense, but I don't think we really understand how tough of a matchup they are to guard. Think about this. Dennis Schroeder, who led all players in scoring off the bench last year, who was balling against Kyrie Irving, he's probably the fourth scoring option now. He's like the fourth scoring option behind LeBron, Davis, and Drummond now. So at this point, I mean, he's going to be able to pick defenses apart. And now he's also going to be able to apply a lot more energy on the defensive end to hound guys like a Jamal Murray. Who do the Nuggets have to guard LeBron James? See, an Aaron Gordon with his size and athleticism would be good to put on LeBron, but then who's guarding Anthony Davis? It's just, the Lakers just cause too much problem with their size, man. I don't think the Nuggets are the best matchup against the Lakers in the West. I honestly think it's the Clippers this year who are going to be the better matchup against the Lakers in the Western Conference, because they have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who's got good size defensively. They've got Serge Ibaka, who's got good size defensively. They got a big body in DeMarcus Cousins. Hopefully he can stay healthy to be able to kind of bang down low with Andre Drummond. They've got an IQ genius in Rajon Rondo who can set up everybody and get everybody involved. They've got scoring come off the bench with Luke Kennard, Marcus Morris. They've got defensive hounds like Patrick Beverly. Hopefully he can get healthy. So I like the depth. I like the coaching, the talent of the Clippers more so than the Denver Nuggets to give the Lakers a bigger threat. JSD says, I think Brooklyn could stop Philly on the perimeter, but down low Brooklyn's going to get beat up. See, JSD, that's the thing, man. It's like Brooklyn's going to eat. I mean, there's nobody who's going to stop their perimeter. And even though the the Philadelphia 76ers would have Ben Simmons with good size, probably, in the top 2 or 3 running right now for Defensive Player of the Year, you could put him on Kevin Durant. He's not going to stop Durant. He's going to make it work, but he's not going to stop Durant. You've got somebody like Danny Green, who's getting a little long in the tooth, but he's in stretches and in spurts, he can make good defensive stops. You're going to put him on James Harden. He's definitely not going to stop James Harden by any stretch of imagination, but he's got good IQ, good hands, so he'll be able to make a couple of good plays. You got somebody like Matisse Thybulle, who defensively could hound Kyrie Irving, but you can't play Matisse Thybulle much because his offensive is kind of limited. So you got Seth Curry, who gives you all the offense, but he's not going to be able to guard Kyrie Irving at all on defense. So there are challenges that Philly has. So I don't want to make it seem like it's a cakewalk. And I can see that being a 7-game series. But I think in a playoff matchup where the game typically slows down, with more fouls, in the interior, they kind of let you get away with a little bit more. On the perimeter, like I said, they're definitely going to call those fouls tough. I think you're going to have an issue with Philly guarding and staying out of foul trouble on the perimeter, especially with a guy like James Harden. But in the interior, with a guy like Joel Embiid, there's just no answer. LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be in foul trouble almost every game trying to guard Joel Embiid in a 7-game series. DeAndre Jordan can't do it. Blake Griffin can't do it. Like, they have no answer down there. And so I just don't like that matchup for them. Zubac over Cousins. I like Zubac, but I think I would rather see Zubac coming off the bench because he just doesn't have that experience and the versatility as much as a Cousins, even though he's a better defender. But you got to remember, if you're starting Kawhi Leonard, starting Paul George, and you're starting Serge Ibaka, you don't need as much defense. You need more offensive versatility. That's why I think Cousins is a better starter than Zubac would be. But either way, the depth is quality there. Definitely quality. Odell says, does Lakers not having a consistent fourth option make them unpredictable? Well, I disagree with you, Odell. I don't think that they don't have a consistent fourth option. I think Dennis Schroeder is a fourth option. Once again, we just saw he could do going up against one of the best scorers in the game in Kyrie Irving. We've seen him be the leading scorer off the bench last year when he was at OKC. We've seen him, though he is. I think the issue with Schroeder is his role has changed so much. He went from bench six-man scorer to now starting the season playing alongside of LeBron, and they're trying to figure out where to pick his spots. Now they're both out. Now he's kind of stepped up to be that number one, number two scoring option, but then he's going to have to go back to that fourth, sometimes even fifth options offensively. So sometimes I think it's just a lack of experience in his role because it's changing so much. But his talent is there. He's a blur with the ball. So I don't think that they have an inconsistent fourth option. I think that fourth option being Schroeder just has to settle in on that role. Exacion says Nets can't beat us. Big facts. Chris Broussard is a fool. If Chris Broussard, I haven't heard this. This is news to me. I hope Chris Broussard is not picking the Brooklyn Nets. I didn't get a chance to watch the show today, but I know he went with the Clippers. You know what I'm saying? He went with the Clippers last year, right? I hope he's not jumping on this Nets bandwagon because, listen, man, I'm just not. Somebody's got to give me a good explanation. I don't know. Let me go back and see if Caden actually responded because Caden says the Nets will have to outscore the 76 to win. Okay. Katie, I didn't get your response on the Nets being able to beat the Lakers. Let me explain to me how the Nets are going to how they're going to guard the Lakers. I want to hear that from you, Caden. He says the Nets might just have to outscore teams. Listen, in the regular season, that works. Regular season, you can just drop 120, 130 almost every other night and just outscore teams. In the playoffs, when you're facing one team for a 2-week time frame, 7-game series, where your defensive schemes are able to just key in on certain matchups, watch the footage over you night after night after night, it's hard to just do that. It's hard to do that for a 7-game stretch, man. I don't see it. That says facts, his role has changed. Remember, he requested to start. Listen, I get it. He wants to start because he doesn't want to be pigeon-toed into that Lou Williams 6-man role, right? He wants to be, the bigger money goes to the starters, right? So he wants to get that big contract. He doesn't want to be looked at as just a bench guy. So I get him wanting to start, and he's done well starting. So I'm not mad at him. I just think he has to settle in once LeBron and Davis come back and still be able to be aggressive, understanding that we still need you to attack when the ball comes to you. Be decisive and make your move to the basket, pass it, shoot it, whatever. But don't just, don't hold the ball and kind of delay trying to look to get it back to them. When LeBron gets to you, he wants you to score. He's a very unselfish player. Get in and go. So I think that'll come in time. JSD said, could the Lakers stop the Nets in the half court? Could the Lakers stop the Nets in the half court? I don't think it's a matter of stopping the Nets in the half court. First of all, I don't think anybody's going to stop the Nets. As great of a defense as the Lakers are, they're not going to stop the Nets. What they're going to do is make it tough for them to score. That's all you can do is put a hand up, switch, don't give them easy baskets, right? Kevin Durant is a 7-foot sniper. He's going to score over Anthony Davis at times, LeBron at times, Drummond at times. He's going to score. James Harden, he's going to score. So will Kyrie. The question is, if they're shooting 45%, let's say they're typically at 50%, if they drop to 45%, that means they're missing more than they're making, right? And if they're missing more than they're making, what's happening with those missed shots? That means just from going from 50% to 45%, you're now giving the Lakers a chance to rebound and run. And that's where the Lakers are better, is out and running. And that hurts the Nets even more because they don't get a chance to get their defenses already bad to get it back and get it set. Listen, man, I don't see it. I just do not see it. Estacion says LeBron will kill KD by far. King is coming. Hey, listen, the one issue that the whole NBA league has to be worried about right now is the fact that LeBron's going through the hyper chamber, rebooting, resting up, He's getting healthy. He's going to be motivated. He's going to be hungry. He's already put out a post the other day talking about the storm is coming. When he comes back, man, he's going to be ready to rock and roll, man. And he's not going to have the long season wear and tear on him because he will have been out for so long. Will he be rusty? Yes. But he's going to be rested. By the time the playoffs come, look out, man. Oh, the camera's frozen again. Lord have mercy. What is going on? Sorry about that. We're back. We're live. Hey, listen, man, this right here, when you're going live, things never go right. So you just gotta build it as you fly the ship, right? We gotta just keep this thing moving. So I appreciate you letting me know in the chat that the camera's frozen though. Listen, I'm still new to this whole live thing, so we're working out all the technical difficulties. I appreciate everybody for bearing with me. And let's hit that like button. If you haven't hit the like button yet, hit that like button if you're new. Because a lot of times we get people who are watching the show that are unsubscribed. If you're unsubscribed, come on, join the Ballaholic Nation, man. Hit that subscribe button so that way you get notified whenever I drop new videos. Come on, join this chat, man. We're going to try to do more of these lives. All right, Kaden says the man is 36 but playing like he's 26. LeBron's a different animal, man. LeBron's a different animal. And I think giving him more time to rest like this, and the Lakers are still maintaining a top 5 seed right now, that's an issue for the NBA. Like, he's coming. You saw what happened last year. Season was going, Lakers were rolling. There's a break in action. Come back, he runs out and wins the championship. Now you're saying the same thing, but for a different reason. Season's going on, Lakers had a top 2 record in the West. The break in action is him having this injury. Now it's taking him, unfortunately taking him out, but he's resting. It's less wear and tear on his legs as he's sitting on the sideline, not having to run up and down, pounding on those joints. So now he's able to come back rested, fresh, healthy, motivated. It's going to be a problem. Lakers for Life says, what do you think the Bucks are going to do? The Bucks, man. They're that one team in the East that is just that X factor. Because they have elite defensive players in Giannis, Drew Holiday. They just brought in P.J. Tucker. Brook Lopez is a good rim protector. But they've taken a step back for whatever reason. I'm not really understanding it. But they are the team. If clearly to me they're the third best team in the East. I think Philly would be number 1 for me, Brooklyn number 2, and Milwaukee number 3. And until I'm able to see Giannis in the playoffs do one of 2 things: have enough confidence to take and to make the outside shot, which I don't think he should, but he has to either do that or he has to do what Zion Williamson, the young bull, is doing: dominate the paint. There's no reason that Zion can dominate the paint and not even he's not even going to allow you to stop him, and Giannis not be able to do the same thing. He's taller, he's longer, his athleticism is similar. Giannis should be dominating even more than the way that Zion is doing right now in the paint we're talking about. And I think the issue is I want to see more of Giannis off the ball. You bring in a Drew Holiday, let him set Giannis up more, right? You brought in the George Hill, let this type of guys, let them set Giannis up so he's more of a finisher, and he doesn't have to play on the perimeter with the defense with a wall in front of him. That's what you see in the playoffs. And I want to see less of that in him, more in the post, more coming off screens, more pin downs, put him in the dunker spot. Like use his size, his athleticism. And I think this is a coaching thing. I think a better coach would get more out of him. Look at Doc Rivers going over to the Philadelphia 76ers. You see Joel Embiid become better. I think the same thing may need to happen in Milwaukee. If they don't make the finals this year, which I don't think they will, I think it's time to go ahead and get Bud up out of there. It's time to get a legitimate coach in there who's going to maximize Giannis' talent before Giannis walks out the door on him in a couple years. Okay, let's see. Jay-Z says, could LeBron ever be the GOAT after what he did in 2011? Man, that's a great question, man. That is a great question. I'm going to say this. To me right now, I got LeBron number 2, and I got Jordan as the greatest of all time. And I've always said, because of LeBron's stats, he's in the conversation. But Jordan's championships is what kind of keeps him slightly above him. 6 for Jordan, 4 for LeBron. And I've always said if LeBron gets 2 more and ties Jordan in rings, because of his amazing stats, that he becomes the GOAT for me. But the way that the Brooklyn Nets have stacked this team, if LeBron James beats the Nets, now I don't think the Nets are going to get that. So I think Philly's going to get that, as I've said. So if LeBron beats the Sixers, I still think LeBron needs one more. But if LeBron beats the Brooklyn Nets that have 3 bona fide superstars, along with LaMarcus Aldridge, who used to be an all-star, and Blake Griffin, who used to be an all-star, DeAndre Jordan made an all-star team, right? Listen, man, if he beats this team, you gotta put this Brooklyn Nets team reminds me of. I'm gonna be honest with you. The way that the Lakers and the Nets are set up reminds you of the '80s, where you had the Lakers with 3 or 4 all-stars on it, and the Celtics with 3 or 4 all-stars on it. That's how these teams are set up. Now, obviously, those Boston teams back there had better defense than the Nets, but my point remains the same. If LeBron's able to beat this Brooklyn Nets team, I gotta put him over Jordan. That's the only time I could, because he wasn't able to do it against against Durant when he was in Golden State for obvious reasons. I think this team he's got now with Anthony Davis, Drummond, and Schroeder, I think it's just better than those teams he had in Cleveland. And I think it's even better than the Miami team. I think it's the best team LeBron's ever been on, to be honest with you. I honestly think that. But if he beats this Brooklyn Nets team, I gotta put him as the GOAT, man. I think so. Kate says one final series does not define LeBron's whole career. To his point, the 2011 finals has kept LeBron from catapulting higher up the rankings. It has hurt him, but you're right. That one thing, it can't outweigh all the good. So I agree with you. Odell says, who has the best backcourt right now? The best backcourt has to go to Washington. Currently, it has to go to Washington. Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal. To me, that's the best backcourt. And it's unfortunate that they may not even make the playoffs. I would hope. Russell Westbrook is one of my favorite players in the game. To me, right now, is my second favorite player, active players today in the game. Zion's my favorite. I would hope to see Russell Westbrook in the playoffs. But it's not looking good right now for those boys. So we got some time left, but to answer your question, I think when healthy, I would say Golden State with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. But because they're not, I'm sorry. Take that back, Odell. Take that back. I gotta take that back. I'm tripping. The best backcourt is the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie Irving and James Harden. That's the best backcourt. I had a brain fart there for a second. I forgot those 2 guys are on the same team. That's the best backcourt, hands down. Kyrie Irving, James Harden. Second best backcourt, I would go Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal as of today. If healthy, I would say second best backcourt would be Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. But I almost forgot about, he says CP3 and Book. That's good. It's a good backcourt, but I can't put CP3 and Devin Booker over Kyrie Irving and James Harden. That's just that's too much talent elite-wise when you're talking about Irving and Harden. Booker's coming up, but Booker's not as good as either one of those guys. CP3, as of today, now would I rather have CP3 versus Irving, even though I think Irving's the better point guard as far as today? I would rather have CP3 on my team because he's a better leader, but Irving's the better talent. So I gotta put them over. Portland. See, the thing about Portland, man, is Dame's official, CJ's official, but he's like a tier 2 guy. Would you put CJ McCollum on James Harden, Kyrie Irving's level? No. Would you put him on Russell Westbrook's level? Or Bradley Beal's level? No. So Dame is up there with all those guys, but CJ he's just on that second tier. He's not as good as those guys. Same thing with the Utah backcourt. It's about Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's he's an all-star, but Mike Conley, even though he was like an alternate, he's a second tier. I put kind of Mike Conley and CJ McCollum. I wouldn't even take CJ over McCollum, to be honest with you. But Mike Conley, he's at like bottom of second tier. Maybe even top of third tier. He's not on that level for me. Skylar says, I don't think the Denver can beat the Lakers because they're underrated loss in Jeremy Grant. Definitely, that was a big loss. Gordon, I don't think can make up for the 3-game difference 4-1. No, I agree with you. Denver, like I said, I think that the Clippers are a better matchup for the Lakers than the Denver Nuggets. I like the moves the Denver Nuggets made. I think it make them a better team. But how do they match up against the best team in the West? I still don't think they have enough. And you're right. They definitely haven't made up a 3-game difference. Could it be 4-2 this year? It could be. If they play the Nuggets, I can see the Lakers winning 4-2 this year. but they didn't make up a 3-game difference. No, they're not going to beat the Lakers. Let's see. We're going to do a couple more questions. We're going to go wrap this thing up because the stream's getting a little long. Sorry about the disconnects, man. I got to figure out. I got to figure it out. Don't worry about it. I think I'm going to have to upgrade my equipment. But we're going to get this thing figured out, man. We're going to be bringing. Listen, I got a lot in store for you all. Listen, over the next couple of months, I got a lot in store. We're going to be changing sceneries. We're going to be changing, going on the. We're going to take the show on the road. So stick around. I got a lot in store for you. Couple more questions. We got comments. He says, think McLemore could do anything for his team or just a one-time thing? No, McLemore is who he is. He's an inconsistent shooter who's a sniper. When he's on, he's on. When he's not, he's not. So what we saw the other night, I expect to see another game where he hits 4 or 5 threes. But I also expect to see some games where he can't hit a shot at all. So McLemore, I wasn't surprised by that. I think it was good timing because we needed it because it was a big-time, televised game against a big-time opponent. But I don't think that's necessarily, something he can't do, 2, 3, 4 more times over the course of the season. Hopefully, 1 or 2 of those will show up in the playoffs. That says, who's the best two-way player right now? Great question. To me, LeBron James is still the best player, and LeBron James plays defense, plays offense. So the unconventional answer, I would say, LeBron James. Who would be the next person outside of the obvious and LeBron James, who's the best player in the game? Honestly, I would have to say Kawhi Leonard. I would have to say Kawhi Leonard being the next, because Kevin Durant to me is the second best player, but his offense is just so amazing, and even he's okay defensively, he's not on that level defensively like Kawhi Leonard. So Kawhi Leonard probably still to me is the second best two-way player, even though Kevin Durant to me is the second best overall player, and LeBron James, like I said, he's just the best. Okay, the 2 more questions and that'll be it. So Claudio says, do you think Tatum classifies as a superstar or borderline superstar right now? You just argue with your friend about it. Well, I don't know what side you took in it, whether you thought he was or not, but I'll say this to Claudio. I think he's an all-star. He's not a superstar yet. See, there's levels to this thing, and I'm going to be doing a couple in a show coming up. Actually, I'm going to be jumping on another friend's podcast. I'll let you all know about that probably on Monday once I get the date and time so you can kind of show him some support as well. But I'm going to be talking about what makes a player a superstar. But I do not think Jason Tatum's a superstar yet, and I'm a big Jason Tatum fan. He's an all-star who's working his way toward that superstar level. But he needs a little bit more. Odell says, your pick as well, Claude worries me when we play him. Listen, I'm not going to say I'm worried about Kawhi, but Kawhi Leonard is, let's be very clear. If there's a person that's going to guard LeBron the best, it's Kawhi Leonard. There is no question about that. He gives LeBron James the biggest troubles of anyone. Now, does that mean he's going to stop LeBron? No. But he's going to make LeBron work more than any player out there is going to make him work. Long wingspan, big, long hands, great basketball instincts, good size. Kawhi Leonard's the real deal. Now, does that mean I think the Clippers can beat the Lakers? Absolutely not. But it ain't because of Kawhi not being able to bring his A game. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. Okay, last question. Skylar says, what team you want to face in the first round if you're the Lakers? What team do I want to face? I mean, if you're the Lakers, you don't really care. Like, if you face, think about it. If you face the Clippers first round, would it matter? No. If you face the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Suns, the Portland, Dallas, like, honestly, it doesn't matter. There's no team in the West that's going to beat these boys. Now, if I had a preference, I would want it to be the easier teams first so that you can get more time to kind of get your feet under you. So if I had to pick who would possibly be the easier teams, that obviously would be, whoever the 7th or 8th seeds are going to be. But the Lakers are going to have a top 2 seed. So who's the most realistic opportunity for them to be? They're probably going to finish in that 4 to 6 range, right? So if they're 4th, they would play the 5th seed, which could possibly be a Denver or a Portland. Between those 2 teams, I'd rather face Portland. If I'm the 6th seed, I'm likely going to be facing the Clippers or Phoenix. I'd rather face Phoenix because they are younger, not as experienced, and like I said, they don't have the claw. But like I said, if the Lakers had to face any team, I don't think I don't think it's an issue. I think Lakers. Honestly, I don't even see the Lakers going 7 against any team in the West at all. All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up, fellas. I think that's gonna do it. Mr. Bro, welcome to the show, man. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna answer that question on this one. We are gonna wrap it up. But if you are a Raptors fan, man, y'all got a lot of work to do. But we're going to get into draft stuff. We'll get into that in a bit. But listen, I appreciate you for taking a look at this video, fellas. Listen, as always, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Until next time, General Hannibal X, I'm out. Peace.